Hello and welcome to Chess with Simon. This is not Simon or Chewy. You can't see us. What you can see is Nigel Moyse's face, which is the right answer, because we're here to celebrate um, Nigel's game against Dave Hackett for Cumnor Chess Club in Oxfordshire League Division 1. In the match against Whitney, Nigel's game was the winner of the Ray Starkie Prize. It's a very interesting battle. It's the London system versus the King's Indian Defence. And let's have a little look at what happened. It's an interesting strategic battle, and also there are some cracking moves played. So d4. Black's heart leaps as he realises he gets the chance to play his King's Indian. Bishop to f4. That is a cold shower on all of his dreams, isn't it? I can say that as a King's Indian player myself. Future opponents note, yes, it makes me sad. Black goes ahead and fianchettos the bishop. White's playing solidly, e3, this is all within the system, harmonious development, actually for both sides. Bishop g7, bishop e2, d6. So one thing to note here very quickly is that often in the King's Indian, White has weak dark squares, and particularly d4 can become weak. But the way Nigel's playing it, that's not the case. Now, of course, White's not playing a maximalist strategy here. But White's playing solidly and not encountering some of the weaknesses that White can sometimes experience when playing more ambitious systems. H3 gives the bishop a place to hide away. Castle, natural knight development. Knight on d7 is normal. Castle, and I think so. Now Black plays c5. I mean, really, you're going to play c5 or e5 at some point in these systems. So Black's clearly made the choice to go for c5. E5, of course, wasn't possible on that move because it would be lost. C5 is a sensible move, and then maybe go about expanding on the queen side and find a way out for this bishop. It's often the way I handle the black side of these positions. Nigel plays c3, again bolstering the d4 pawn. This is standard for this kind of London system. a6, a4. So again, this is stopping the very natural b5 move, which would give a big fianchetto for the bishop to live in. So Black makes do with b6. The knight develops to the natural square. The bishop does the same. White takes a tempo to pull that bishop back to h2, so it's out of range of the f6 knight. Black puts the rook on e8, which you've got to believe is certainly hinting at e5. Queen c2 from Nigel. It's not a bad move. It's a natural move. I think after rook c8, you start to worry a bit about tactics on the c file. But Nigel also puts his rook opposite the black queen, so maybe 50-50 on that. Black takes. White does not take with the c-pawn, or indeed with the knight. White does this correctly. Black really wants to... I think the queen sits well on c7, and again continuing this battle for the c-file. And then Nigel plays a really interesting move, which is correct. Bishop c4. I would be afraid of this move, but it being it's defended, it allows, of course, it allows Black to take on f3, and then White couldn't take with the knight. White would have to take with the pawn. That wouldn't be the end of the world because it would give White the two bishops. Although those pawns clearly would be really weak around. I don't think it's so much the threats around the king. I think it's more the weak pawns, because I think at least in the short to medium term, the white king would be okay. What worries me is the pawn structure will be very much degraded. But Black doesn't go for that. Black basically creates a battery along that diagonal towards the king. So if that knight and f3 moves anywhere apart from e1 or h4, it's checkmate on g2. So this is already starting to suggest a threat, and we'll see this becomes more and more relevant. White moves to b3, threatening a fork on f7. So black blocks it, and also blocks his own battery down the long diagonal. Bishop comes back. So this is a good knight move. So I suppose what this knight's saying is, I'm going to take up this really nice position, and if you try to get rid of me, we're going to open that diagonal with this dangerous mating threats. But white calls black's buff, takes with a bishop, takes back with a pawn, and then here, so attempting to gang up and win this pawn, but black might feel that that's a pawn worth giving up because the threats are so great. I mean, clearly, for instance, if that pawn wasn't there now, it would be mate next move for black. So black plays e6, and the idea behind this is clearly to stop the queen taking, or stop anything taking on f7, but block the queen's route to f7. White's taken on e4, and now black makes an incredibly tempting move, which on the face of it looks like it's winning. So black is attacking the knight with a pawn, which suggests the knight will have to move, and when the knight moves, it will be checkmate on g2. If I was playing white here, I'd be absolutely terrified. Needless to say, Nigel's got it all under control. So the question is, can we spot the great move for white here? There is only one move that really works for white, and it leaves white quite a lot better. So if you were playing white here, what would you do? It's a really nice move, and the answer is this move, d5, simultaneously blocks the mating threat and attacks the queen. So this is good news. So if the queen takes, then we can swap queens, and the mating threat will evaporate and the knight can run away. If the pawn takes, then we block the long diagonal, which is something of a relief. So black chooses, I think very sensibly, to take with a pawn, so that the threat might be reignited down the line. But also, what white did after the push is, white can actually come in here, and of course it's got a fork of the two rooks. So he's attacking both rooks simultaneously, could win an exchange, but it's complicated because black has this move hitting the white queen. White runs to a2, that's the engine move, but then black has to admit that white's won an exchange. White plays rook e1. Now this is quite an interesting move. So I'd be tempted to do something about the mating threat, but maybe white takes a view that the mating threat isn't that much of a worry, and of course in the short term the d pawn is pinned to the black king, and so it actually can't move this move. So I think what white's doing very sensibly is basically stopping that rook invading and just contesting the file, and it's a contest that white's going to win because white's got two rooks. So the black knight moves to an active square and a good square. Let's just check. So that knight's defended twice and it's attacked twice, because clearly the d5 pawn is not defending the knight because it's pinned, but the f pawn and the rook are defending the knight. Knight f3, this is a sensible move, just getting in the way of that mating threat. King moves to the side to unpin the pawn. The rook moves onto a good file. Okay. The rook moves onto a good file. Now, so queen c5, so that's attacking the f2 pawn, which is a serious threat. So the knight goes in the way. Basically what's happening now is that white has built up a material advantage by this clever sequence in the middle, and now black's just trying to drum up some activity. But essentially, if white can keep it solid, then white's just going to win the endgame. Some manoeuvring here. So now black just starts pushing a pawn towards the enemy king. White confidently takes it. Well, I'm not sure if it was confident, actually. We should ask Nigel how he feels about it. Or Nigel, please say in the comments. But looked confident to me anyway. Rook comes onto the open file. Bishop comes really nice square for the bishop. So just obviously defending the f pawn, and then obviously also perhaps creating threats towards the black queen, most obviously knight e6, which would hit the queen and the rook, hit the queen twice. So queen moves away from that. The knight comes back for defensive duties. Black's getting going on the queen side. I'm not quite sure what that's trying to achieve. Maybe at the moment, I think the tide's slightly turning here. So black's going to have one last attack. So the bishop here threatening to give a check on h2. And actually this is quite problematic. So white gobbles another pawn. So white's got a big material advantage. The check here. Now Nigel makes the right choice here. You could have gone to f1. So f1 would have been a problem here. Because after king f1, if the bishop takes on a6, there are all sorts of threats to the white king. I mean, the f pawn is pinned by the rook, the knight is pinned by the bishop, the king doesn't have many squares. It's actually virtually an equal position, whereas king h1 is just winning. Rook takes on f2, white takes here. So basically white's about to queen with check. So one last check from black, white takes it, and Dave rightly resigns. He's a good player, he knows when the game's over. So Dave rightly resigns. So it's a really interesting game. I thought it was an interesting game because Nigel played very solidly against the King's Indian. Basically, for us King's Indian players, this is an absolute nightmare, isn't it? Nigel played very solidly. I think he was very cool in the face of some quite scary threats. There was a lovely move. This d5 move is really pretty, and it'd be interesting to see how far ahead Nigel saw this. So I assume this. I mean, it was brave to chop that knight off, and then after f5, this move is an absolute beaut. Be interesting to see how much of that Nigel saw, but it worked out very well. I think Dave was right to take with the pawn, because taking with the queen it's just going to fizzle out, and white's going to end up an exchange up. But luckily, white was able to grab the material and then basically hold Dave out for the rest of the game. I enjoyed that a lot. Congratulations to Nigel and Dave for creating an interesting game. Today's quote is from Vladimir Kramnik, which I saw him. I think he just beat Nakamura in a beautiful, the white side of a King's Indian. Kramnik could play very classically, and Kramnik said, well, I'm not saying the King's Indian is a bad opening, but because, Kasparov will absolutely kill me, but, it kind of is. And today, Nigel just proved that theory, but we King's Indian players will never give up. So thanks for an interesting game, Nigel, and look forward to seeing you all soon.